Mars will not save us. It was created to kill us. Humanity has a very strange obsession with corpses. Right now, we are sitting on a perfectly engineered paradise, a planet with breathable air, flowing water, and a magnetic shield protecting us from the fury of the cosmos. And what are we doing? We are slowly destroying it. But instead of fixing our only home, billionaires and dreamers look up at the night sky, point at a frozen, irradiated, toxic desert, and think, ah yes, real estate. We call it Plan B. We romanticize it, we want to colonize it, but the universe does not care about our science fiction dreams. Mars is not waiting to save us. Today, we are going to look past the propaganda. We are going to explore the absolute, terrifying reality of the red planet. Welcome to the graveyard of the solar system. This is the Cosmophile. To understand Mars, you must understand that it is quite literally a planetary corpse. Billions of years ago, Mars was alive. It had thick clouds, rushing rivers, and deep oceans. It was warm. It had the potential for life, but a planet needs a beating heart to survive. Deep inside Earth, a molten iron core is constantly spinning, generating a massive magnetic field that deflects the deadly solar wind. Mars is smaller, and because it is smaller, its internal fire burned out quickly. About 4 billion years ago, the core of Mars cooled down and solidified. Its heartbeat stopped. Without a moving core, its magnetic shield collapsed. And when the shield fell, the sun showed no mercy. For billions of years, supersonic solar winds relentlessly smashed into Mars, slowly stripping away its atmosphere molecule by molecule. The oceans boiled into space. The rivers dried into dust. Mars did not just die. It was brutally flayed alive by our own star. Pop culture loves to tell us that if we just build a dome and bring some seeds, we can grow food on Mars. This is a magnificent lie. The soil on Mars is not just dry dirt. It is heavily saturated with toxic chemical compounds called perchlorates. If a human were to inhale this dust, or eat crops grown in this soil without massive industrial level chemical processing, their thyroid gland would shut down. It is literally poison. And even if you filter the poison, you still have to deal with the sky. Because Mars has almost zero atmosphere, the surface is constantly bombarded by cosmic radiation. Standing on the surface of Mars is like undergoing a continuous, full-body X-ray. It destroys your DNA. It guarantees cancer. And do not forget the temperature. The average temperature is minus 60 degrees Celsius. In the winter, at the poles, it drops to minus 125 degrees. It is a frozen, radioactive wasteland, and it wants you dead. Yet, in its death, Mars left behind monuments of incomprehensible scale, relics of a violent past. It is home to Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the entire solar system. It is 22 kilometers high. That is nearly 3 times the height of Mount Everest. It is so unimaginably massive that if you stood at its peak, you would technically be standing outside the Martian atmosphere. And then there's Valles Marineris, a canyon so deep and so long it makes the Grand Canyon look like a tiny scratch in the dirt. It stretches for 4,000 kilometers across the planet's surface, but these monuments are entirely silent. No tectonic plates shift beneath them. No wind howls loud enough to echo. No rain will ever wash their dust away. They are the ultimate tombstones. We talk about terraforming Mars, pumping greenhouse gases into its non-existent atmosphere to warm it up, melting its frozen poles to create oceans again. But we are forgetting basic physics. Mars still has no magnetic field. If we somehow spent 1 million years creating a new atmosphere where the solar wind would just strip it right back into space, it is like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. Mars is a fascinating laboratory. It is a masterpiece of planetary geology, but it is not an escape pod. There's a profound arrogance in believing that we can revive a dead planet when we cannot even stabilize the living one we are currently standing on. But let us look closer at the water that once carved the valleys of Mars. For decades, scientists wondered, where did all that water actually go? Did the solar wind blow every single drop into the freezing vacuum of space? In recent years, data from Mars rovers gave us a fascinating yet chilling answer. Up to 80% of Mars's ancient oceans never left the planet. Instead, as the atmosphere thinned, the water was chemically trapped, sucked into the very crust of the planet. It is still there, locked inside the rocks and frozen into giant ice sheets beneath the red dirt. Mars did not just lose its water, it drank its own oceans to survive, burying them deep inside its frozen skeleton. And because the surface is now a bone-dry desert, Mars has birthed a new kind of monster, global dust storms. On Earth, a hurricane is a local event, but on Mars, a dust storm can grow so massive that it covers the entire planet for months at a time. Imagine a wall of fine toxic dust rising 40 kilometers into the sky, completely blotting out the sun, turning the entire world into a pitch-black, freezing nightmare. It was one of these global monsters that permanently killed NASA's Opportunity rover in 2018, choking its solar panels with dust and leaving it to freeze to death in the dark. Mars does not just tolerate these monsters, it feeds them. Mars is not a promise of a new beginning. It is a terrifying, magnificent warning. We look at this frozen, irradiated desert, and we see our future. But not in the way the billionaires and the optimists think. Mars shows us exactly what happens when a world loses its shield. It is a mirror reflecting the extreme fragility of life in a cold, uncaring universe. There is a profound, almost a comical arrogance in the human species. We are currently struggling to manage the temperature of our own living planet by just 1 or 2 degrees. Yet we honestly believe we possess the power to restart the dead heart of another world. We want to conquer the cosmos, but we are still just children playing with fire inside a wooden house. Perhaps instead of looking for a second home, we should accept that this floating blue rock is all we will ever have. Or perhaps we will go to Mars, and in a million years, the only evidence that humanity ever existed will be a few frozen flags buried under toxic dust, waiting for a sun that will never warm them. The universe will not shed a tear either way. It will just keep expanding in absolute silence. If you enjoy facing the cold, empty void of reality, then hit the subscribe button. This was the Cosmophile.